Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me for today's video. My name is Xander Raymond Charles, and as the title of this video says, yes, I've been called out. Let's talk about it. So I just got off the road. I was touring all over the United States. I played about like 26 or 27 shows, give or take, all over the country. And while I was away and while I was out, there was a video posted called Modern Guitarists versus David Gilmour. I was included in his video talking about modern guitar players. And like I said, I was more or less called out. And what I was called out for was that my style or my riff in this example is boring and lifeless. That's the joy of making YouTube content, and that's the joy of making art itself. It's all subjective and we're all allowed to have an opinion. So I'm not going to spend my time making my video right now, this video, judging, criticizing, spreading hate or negativity about somebody else's opinion of me. But it does allow me to talk about this, and I'm just right off the bat and so stoked that anybody cares enough about my playing and my style to react to it. So in his video, he uses arguably my most popular, or quite literally my most popular and most successful piece of content ever, and that is one of my quote-unquote crazy whammy bar riffs that has gotten, over 3, 4, 5 million views collectively all over social media. I think if my memory serves correct, on YouTube alone, it has like almost 4 million views. And that riff just came out of just, random inspiration. And I kept it in my back pocket for about a year. And then I made a song out of it called Foo Dog. And for those of you paying attention at home, I do in fact have 2 Indonesian foo dogs on my hand. Very, very special sentimental tattoos. But I called it that because, my arm's always in the shot and is always doing the whammy bar trick. So it's just kind of a funny little thing there. I just think it's so cool to be used as an example of a modern guitar player. Like my art, this silly riff, this Foo Dog riff that I came up with, the full song's out now, but at the time, the riff that I came up with is so impactful, for better or for worse, to have somebody want to feel compelled to give some sort of commentary on it. But yes, Foo Dog is arguably my most famous or infamous riff, and I'm being compared and contrasted against somebody like David Gilmour in this video. Now, the obvious claim and argument here is my riff and several other people's riffs and ideas don't compare to what was more impactful before, and that is somebody like David Gilmour. And this gentleman in his video reads a comment where somebody says they played a David Gilmour or a Pink Floyd piece of music at somebody's funeral. And then this gentleman wraps up his video saying, would you want to listen to modern guitar at a funeral versus something like David Gilmour? And in my opinion, I think that's a fair claim, sure, but also too, I think we're comparing apples and oranges here. My style of music or modern style of music isn't necessarily appropriate for a funeral. It could be, but it's more appropriate for the gym, for working out, for feeling inspired and motivated, to feel good, to dance, something like that. But it brings me to my point right here. We're all allowed to have our opinions, but I am just personally so thankful that anybody cares enough to hate on my art and my music and my creations. Again, Foo Dog, this topic that we're talking right now, this riff, this song, I'm so thankful that somebody saw my content, decided to react to it in presumably a negative way, or just didn't like it, and that's totally fine. I'm genuinely okay with that and stoked at that. But made a video talking about it and then compared it and contrasted it against to arguably the greatest rock guitar player of all time. I mean, who's not to say David Gilmour isn't the best rock guitar player of all time? He's in that running. He's definitely in the top 10 in my opinion. But my whole crux and counter argument in this video is this. The worst reaction you can get from an audience when creating art is indifference. That is the worst. Personally, I love it when somebody loves my content or my art or my music, but I also equally love it when somebody hates it. The worst thing you can get is when you put out a piece of music and nobody cares about it, nobody likes it, nobody reacts to it. However, I love it when somebody reacts to a piece of music, to a riff, to something that I created, and truly hates it. I love that, or truly has a huge dislike for it, we'll say. And in this example, modern guitar players versus David Gilmour, somebody used me as an example to compare and contrast, and heavily contrast against David Gilmour. And this individual saying that I certainly don't stack up against David Gilmour, while at the same time saying I'm an example of somebody in the modern day that is doing something for better or for worse. And that's cool, man. Now, obviously, would I love it if everybody on the planet loved my music and my riffs? I guess, sure, right? Why not? But I'm just truly like content and comfortable and okay with somebody not liking something that I've created. So I don't want this video to turn into people thinking that I'm like defending myself. I'm truly not. I'm truly just so secure in myself and my skills and my creation. But it is interesting nonetheless that I have been used as an example and have been called out of being a modern guitar player and a modern example of somebody who thinks that like modern guitar players aren't doing that good on the instrument. So like, I don't know this gentleman, and like, I'm totally fine. Like, I have nothing but the utmost respect and love for this dude. It's truly all good, man. So if you guys want to go check out the video, I'll put it down below in the description. But if you do go over there, do not be distasteful, mean, arrogant, just inconsiderate. We're all doing our own thing and we're all allowed to have our own opinions, okay? So please, if you go over there, just keep it cordial at the very least, but keep it friendly at best, okay? So I guess, the final thing I want to say in this video is like, are modern guitar players, are modern artists not as good as what came before? I don't really even think that argument is even valid. It's just kind of like apples and oranges, man. And I also think it's a whole generational thing where like everybody thinks that like their scene, their era, their genre growing up was the best. It's always just like an age-old thing where like what came before is way better than what is happening in present day. And I, personally am indifferent to all that. I love all genres of music. I don't really know if anything was the best or not. But I will say I personally, as a modern artist, a modern guitar player, and just doing my best to create whatever comes out on the fretboard comes out. And that's like what's going on in my head. When it's my turn to create, this is what comes out. And I'm totally content and happy with my own creations. Again, I'm also very thankful to be, compared against to somebody like David Gilmour, for better or for worse. I think that's like a huge compliment. Thank you. So yes, everybody, I've been more or less called out in this video as somebody who is a modern guitar player. And according to just simply one person who's totally allowed to have an opinion, my playing or my style isn't that good and, isn't as good as what came before. And that's kind of cool to be a part of that and be, relevant enough to be, more or less hated on. And I want to say this message right now to anybody who's a creator, whether you're like a writer, an illustrator, a musician, whatever, man, a painter. If you get a negative reaction out of your art, that is such a positive like reinforcer, in my opinion. As long as you stay true to it and you love it and it's your own body of work and you're happy and you stand behind it, just keep doing it, man. Again, the worst thing that could ever happen is indifference. If you put something out to the world and nobody cares about it, that sucks. But if somebody loves it, obviously that's a good thing. But if somebody really hates it and, makes a video out of it, for example, like saying how not good it is compared to somebody else, dude, keep doing that. That's awesome. That is great feedback. Creating a positive or a negative emotion with art, that's the goal in my opinion. But I want to turn it over to you guys. What do you guys think of this video? What do you guys think of like what came before versus what is going on now? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you an artist yourself? Are you a guitar player yourself? How do you feel about this? And last but not least, if in fact you do go over to this channel, this gentleman's channel, one more time, keep it friendly, keep it cordial at the very minimum. Do not spread hate on the internet. That's corny and lame and like just small energy, we'll say. So just don't do that. That's just lame, dude. Okay, so yeah, everybody, I'm back home from tour. I got so much content to get through. I can't wait. I'm so stoked. I'm so happy, honored, motivated, inspired to be back home. But yeah, everybody, in the meantime, what do you guys think of this video? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in a video very, very soon. All right, everybody, I love you guys. See ya.